Why, hello there, I'm Professor Joel, and welcome to another episode of Planet Scooby Reviews. Today we are covering episode 2 of season 3 of Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? And this episode is called A Creepy Tangle in the Bermuda Triangle. And this episode originally aired on September 16th, 1978, and it sees the gang involved in a mystery in the Bermuda Triangle, which was quite famous back in the 70s for being an alien kind of place where as planes disappeared and ships disappeared and there was no reason for it. And this was very popular in books and in newspapers that kind of were outrageous, like the National Enquirer is a big thing back in the 70s that made this intriguing to me because I was born in the 70s. So I kind of lived through this era where you go to the supermarket and you'd see all these magazines when you check out, claiming like the latest victims of the Bermuda Triangle and such. And here the gang do encounter a UFO-like mystery because they see in a weather airplane swallowed up by a UFO. And later on, they also shipwreck. They crash their sailboat on a remote island where they encounter a trio of skeleton men who have a very cool character design because they got a skeleton body and this giant eyeball of a head. And for a little bit of trivia, the skeleton men also show up in Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed, where the costumes are brought to life in that movie. Anyway, enough of my jibber jabber. Let's get to the review. The episode begins with an airplane flying during a lightning storm. They are about to enter the Hurricane Eye at the center of the Bermuda Triangle. Once in the eye, the storm has calmed down and the huge UFO flies at them. On an Air Force base, the Air Force hears the plane report a UFO, and then they lose contact with the plane. Captain Harris asks Dr. Grimsley, what happened?
Dr. Grimsley, what happened?
Hey, what happened?
I'm only a weather scientist, Captain Harris.
What am I, a doctor or a moon shuttle conductor?
What do you think? I don't know.
But Dr. Grimsley explains that he is only a weather scientist. Out on a sailboat in the Gulf Stream, the gang dance and eat snacks. The waves start to get choppy and the wind picks up, so the gang start to head back. They also hear on the radio from Miami where a Hurricane Hunter plane has disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle.
A Hurricane Hunter plane has disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle.
And the storm is blowing us right into it.
The storm blows the gang into the Bermuda Triangle and they lose their main sail due to a lightning bolt.
Like we're doomed. That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
Drifting, the gang see an airplane in the sky where they see a flying saucer capture the plane.
It's a plane. It's a plane.
The plane.
Velma speculates the same thing must have happened to the weather plane. The storm picks up and the gang crash into a remote island called the Diablo Island. Freddy explains the island is deserted, but below the waves we see a submarine cruise to this island base where two skeleton men swim out and open an iron gate to a cave so the submarine can enter.
According to this map, it's called Diablo Island. And you can relax, Shaggy. It's deserted.
The nighttime temperature of the island is cold, so Freddy asks Shaggy and Scooby to collect some more firewood. Scooby comes across an old drifter who tells him to get off the island.
Get off this island.
Scooby runs off, so the old man approaches the gang and tells the gang to get off the island as it's haunted by the skeleton men. The old man vanishes, but Freddy is intrigued by the riddle of the Bermuda Triangle.
Get off, or the skeleton men will get you. Take your boat and go while you still can.
He disappeared.
So they split up, searching for clues. Freddy, Velma, and Daphne head off up a cliff while Scooby and Shaggy stay back to keep the campfire going and get some clam chatter going as well. On top of the cliff, Freddy, Daphne, and Velma spot an airstrip. Daphne trips on something and it's revealed to be a smudge pop. This is an old-fashioned lighting device to help airplanes land. As it's still warm, it has recently been used. Velma also sees two long rows of old-fashioned smudge pots.
Hey,
What happened?
Hey, what happened?
oh, I tripped over something.
Looks like a smudge pot. And it hasn't been too long since it was lighted.
Look, 2 long rows of them.
And wheel tracks.
Inside the airfield building, they find modern equipment such as directional finders, radar, and more.
This is all modern equipment. Direction finders, radar, everything you need to guide a plane down on instruments.
The building itself is dilapidated, but the equipment is brand new. Outside, Daphne notices the wheel tracks from the airplanes lead directly into a mountain, so the gang go outside and investigate. Shaggy and Scooby dig for clams and are confronted by 3 skeleton men who ruin Shaggy's plan for fresh clam chowder. The cowardly pair run off and climb into an old ventilator that brings them into a cave system where there's a dock and submarine. Back to Freddy and the girls, Freddy opens the cliff door and that leads them to a airplane hangar. Velma also realizes the cliff is fake as it's made from plaster. Boarding an airplane, Freddy tries out the airplane radio where they chat with Dr. Grimsley and explain that the vanished airplanes are in an underground bunker. Dr. Grimsley is shocked and tells them to stay put as he's sending help immediately.
This is Weather Eye 1 calling Weather Base.
Weather Eye 1?
Yes, sir. With good news. Your planes didn't crash.
What?
They're here on Diablo Island, inside an underground hangar.
I'll notify the authorities. Stay put until we get there.
Outside the airplane, Daphne notices that they are being repainted.
It looks like somebody's repainting the plane.
Looking for more clues, the 3 enter a shipping container and they end up locked inside. Even worse, the container is filling up with water from a grate down below. Meanwhile, Shaggy and Scooby find themselves in trouble after boarding the submarine as they are chased by the skeleton men. Shaggy notices the submarine has a skylight, which seems to be a little crazy for something in a submarine.
Like, that's crazy. A submarine with a skylight. Yeah! Like, quick, hide in there!
In order to hide from the skeleton men, Shaggy hides Scooby in a torpedo loading area and he accidentally launches Scooby into the water. Shaggy also finds the missing pilots, but before he can free them, the skeleton men take chase. In his efforts to run away, Shaggy hits a projector button where the UFO image is projected through the submarine's skylight.
Hey, excuse me. Like, who are you guys? Thanks, I gotta go. Nice talking to you. Zoinks! Like, what happened?
Hey, what happened?
The flying saucer.
We then cut back to the gang where a ladder drops down and rescues Freddy, Daphne, and Velma. The gang never see who rescues them, but Velma has her suspicions. While out searching for more clues, the 3 see the projected UFO image in the cave system. They also find Scooby, who runs out to rescue Shaggy from the skeleton men. While the skeleton men are distracted by Scooby and Shaggy, Fred captures the skeleton men with a giant crane. Shaggy runs back to rescue the tied-up pilots, but finds the old sea dog who warned them off the island before. It turns out the man is Commander Stern of the Navy Intelligence in disguise.
You're very smart, miss. I'm Commander Stearns, United States Navy Intelligence.
It was him who saved them from the flooding container. Freddy explains the saucer is a fake holographic image that was made to look like a UFO was swallowing up planes. The planes were then taken over by remote control and then flown to the remote island where they were repainted and sold overseas.
The saucer was a fake, a holographic image projected onto the clouds by the submarine to make everyone think the planes were being swallowed up by an unidentified flying object. Then the planes were flown on remote control to the island airstrip, where the thieves were repainting them to sell them overseas.
Freddy unmasks the 3 skeleton men and the head henchman is Dr. Grimsley, the head of the Weather Eye Project, as he always knew when the planes were flying.
Why, it's Dr. Grimsley, the head of the Weather Eye Project.
The one man who always knew when the planes would be flying.
Since their sailboat is ruined, the gang head back to the States in style aboard a submarine, where Scooby enjoys a submarine sandwich. I give this episode an 8.5 out of 10. I was originally thinking like a 7.5 and then I thought an 8. And after rewatching it a couple more times, 8.5. I love the opening to this episode when the gang are on the sailboat. It's a very cool and kind of, as a sailor myself, I do sail and I have been caught in storms. So maybe that's why I like the opening, because it is scary being out in a storm when there's lightning striking and the waves are wavy and they're knocking you about. So yeah, 8.5 for me for the opening. And I love the character design of the skeleton men, but as villains themselves, they're not that spooky or scary. They don't have much to do. And they're, other than their appearance, they're not that memorable. They just kind of run around and growl a bit. I wish they did a little bit more with them, but I'll take what I can get. I like how this episode also features UFOs. We don't really see this a lot in Scooby-Doo in the earlier seasons at least. And I like the Bermuda Triangle mystery aspect. Again, I grew up kind of hearing all about the Bermuda Triangle as a kid, so my rating's probably a little bit higher just for my nostalgia for that. And I also like the twist where the Dr. Grimsley, he was the main bad guy. He communicates with the gang saying, oh, just stay where you are. Help is on the way. But help isn't on the way because he's there and he's about to drown them or do whatever he wants to do with them. And of course, there is a bit of cartoon logic because Shaggy and Scooby are being chased by the skeleton men while Dr. Grimsby is off on some other island, even though Dr. Grimsby is later realized to be one of the skeleton men. So, cartoon logic. What can you do? The plot, though, it's a bit recycled. We've seen this underground cave system a lot. We saw it with The Secret of Shark Island, where they also caught the bad guys with a hook on a crane. So that kind of repeats itself. And the whole stealing vehicles and repainting them. We've seen this before, most noticeably for me, the Ghost of Bigfoot episode and the spooky case of the Grand Prix race. But of course, I mean, this is later on in Scooby's television career, I guess. This is like the 9th year of Scooby-Doo, so there is going to be a bit of recycling. And I think the creators knew things were getting stale because it's the next year where they introduce Scrappy-Doo to kind of switch things up a bit. Overall, though, this is a fun episode, which is it's kind of light on the spookiness, but it's kind of high on the adventure theme. I like the adventure on the sailboat. I like the old sea dog on the beach and the adventure aspect with that. And I think we've get Freddy and Velma and Daphne. They get featured quite a bit in this. They do more than just kind of just walk around, which in the past, the later episode, that was kind of one of my main complaints with the Willowa. The Willowa seemed a little more dedicated to gags with Scooby and Shaggy, and here we get a fair balance between all of the gang members. At least that's how I found it. Anyway, once again, thank you for any likes, subscribes, views, and everything you do. It means a lot to me. Thank you for helping my channel grow. I really appreciate hearing comments of people saying they really look forward to my next episode and all that. So thank you for that. Join me next week when I will be covering A Scary Night with a Snow Beast Fright. And until then, stay spooky.
Like we're doomed. That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
Get off this island.